At every family gathering for 30 years, my Uncle Ray got the same lecture. We'd be out in the backyard, paper plates balanced on our knees, and some relative would lean over and start in on him. "Ray, when are you going to get a real job? A steady paycheck, some security." My father said it. My aunt said it. Everyone said it because Ray had done something that made the whole family nervous. He'd broken the one rule that every single person at that barbecue had built their entire life around. And here's the thing nobody wanted to admit while they were lecturing him. Uncle Ray was the only person at that table who was actually rich. Everyone else followed the rule perfectly, worked hard their whole lives, and retired tired and worried about money. Ray broke the rule on purpose, got mocked for it for decades, and ended up free. Today I'm going to show you exactly what that rule is, why almost everyone on Earth follows it without question, and precisely how Ray broke it. Because once you see it, you can break it too. So let me tell you the rule plainly, because you've been following it your whole life and you've probably never once said it out loud. The rule is this: trade your time for money. That's it. That's the invisible law almost every person on the planet organizes their entire life around. You wake up, you go somewhere, you hand over your hours, and in exchange you get paid. Work an hour, earn an hour's pay. Work a week, earn a week's pay. Stop working, get sick, get old, get laid off. And the money stops the instant you do. This rule is so deep, so normal, so drilled into us since childhood, that most people don't even experience it as a choice. It just feels like reality itself, like gravity. Go to school so you can get a good job so you can trade your time for a paycheck for 40 years. That's the script. Everyone at that barbecue was living it. And my Uncle Ray looked at that rule one day when he was young and had nothing, and decided he was never going to follow it. Now, I want to be fair here, because this rule isn't stupid, and the people who follow it aren't fools. A steady job trading time for money is safe, it's predictable, it puts food on the table, and for most of human history, it was the only path there was. My father followed the rule and gave us a good life. There is nothing shameful about it. But here's the trap hidden inside it, the thing that makes it so dangerous precisely because it feels so responsible. When you trade your time for money, your income has a hard ceiling, because there are only so many hours in a day, and you cannot sell an hour you don't have. And worse, the moment you stop trading, you stop earning. You never actually own anything that pays you. You're renting out the only thing you can never get more of, your time, and when it runs out, so does everything else. Ray saw that trap clearly when he was young, and it scared him more than the risk of breaking the rule did. Let me show you the difference Ray saw, because he explained it to me once with a picture I've never forgotten, and it reframes this entire thing. Imagine a village a long time ago, and imagine that everyone in it survives by hunting. Every single morning, the hunters wake up, pick up their spears, and go out to catch that day's food. If a hunter catches something, the family eats that day. If he catches nothing, they go hungry. And here's the part that matters. No matter how good a hunter you are, tomorrow you have to wake up and do it all over again, because yesterday's hunt is already eaten. Picture a man walking out into the cold every single morning for 50 years, chasing the same prey because the day he stops walking is the day his family starves. That, Ray told me, is trading your time for money. It doesn't matter if you're a brilliant hunter earning a huge salary, you are still going out every single morning, still one bad stretch away from hunger, still trapped in the daily hunt until your body gives out. Almost everyone you know is a hunter, and the whole village agrees that hunting is just how life works. But Ray asked a different question, the question that broke the rule. He asked, what if instead of only hunting, I use some of my time to build something that produces food on its own? Picture the same village, and picture one person who still hunts to survive in the beginning. He has to, but who spends his evenings and weekends doing something strange. He clears a field, he plants seeds, he fences in a few animals and lets them breed. For the first couple of years, this looks ridiculous. Picture the other hunters laughing at him as they head out with their spears, while he's on his knees in the dirt planting things that produce nothing yet. He's working harder than everyone, hunting and farming, and he has less to show for it, because the farm isn't producing much at the start. This is exactly the phase where the whole family was lecturing Ray at the barbecue. But then picture what happens a few years later. The field is full of crops that come back every season on their own. The animals have multiplied into a herd that feeds him without being chased. Picture the farmer walking out to his field in the morning and simply gathering what grew while he slept, while the hunters are still out in the cold, chasing. The farmer broke the rule. He stopped only trading his time for food and started building things that produce food whether he shows up or not. That is the entire secret of my Uncle Ray, and of nearly every wealthy person who wasn't handed their money. They stopped only hunting, they learned to farm. So let me translate the farm out of the story and into real money, because this is where it gets practical. In the real world, farming means owning things that produce income without your time, what people call assets. Picture a few of them concretely. A share of a business that pays you a piece of its profits every few months, whether you worked that day or not. A rental property where someone hands you money every month for living in something you own. Money invested in the broad stock market, growing and compounding on its own while you sleep. A business you built that runs without you standing behind the counter. A book, a course, a design, a piece of work you made once that keeps selling for years. Picture each of these as a small farm animal or a field that keeps producing. You did the work once, up front, and now it feeds you again and again. That is what Uncle Ray spent his life collecting. Not a bigger paycheck, not a fancier title. Fields and herds, assets that produce money without his hours attached. The hunter's income keeps arriving even when he's asleep, even when he's on vacation, even when he's on vacation, even when he's old. Now let me pause here because there's something underneath this that I need you to see, since it's the reason the rule has such a grip on almost everyone. Ask yourself why practically the entire world chooses to hunt when farming so obviously wins in the end. And the answer is not that people are lazy or stupid. It's that everything about the way we're raised trains us to hunt and actively discourages us from farming. Picture a child moving through 12 years of school and picture what the whole system is built to produce. A good employee, someone who shows up on time, follows instructions, and trades their hours for a wage. Almost no one is ever taught how to build a farm, how ownership works, how assets produce income, how to make money without selling your time. Picture a person graduating having never once been shown the farmer's path and defaulting to the only thing anyone ever taught them: go get a job and hunt. On top of that, farming is scary and slow at the start. Hunting pays you today. Farming pays you in years. Picture the farmer's empty field in month 1 versus the hunter's fresh catch that same evening, and you understand why almost everyone grabs the spear. The rule survives not because it's the best path, but because it's the safe, familiar, immediate one, and because the people who taught it to you were hunters who never knew there was anything else. Let me show you what following the rule actually costs, because the price is far bigger than people realize, and it's the calculation almost nobody runs. Picture a person who hunts perfectly for 40 years, a good, responsible worker who trades their time for a solid paycheck their entire career. At the end of it, what do they own that produces food? For a shocking number of people, the honest answer is almost nothing. Picture them at 65, standing in front of the same empty field they never planted, holding a spear their aging arms can barely lift anymore, and realizing that the moment they stop hunting, the food stops too. That's the cost of the rule. 40 years of effort and no farm at the end of it, just a lifetime of catches that were all eaten as fast as they came in. And here's the cruelest part. Those same 40 years were more than enough time to build an enormous farm. Picture all the hours that went into nothing but hunting, and picture what even a fraction of them, redirected into planting, would have grown into over 4 decades. The rule doesn't just limit you. It quietly runs out the single most valuable resource you have: time, on an activity that leaves you with nothing to show for it the moment you stop. Uncle Ray refused to pay that price. He decided that some of his hunting was going to become farming, no matter how long it took. Now let me get into how Ray actually broke the rule, step by step, because he wasn't reckless about it, and this is the part you can copy. The first thing Ray did was the most important, and it's the thing almost nobody does. He kept hunting, but he refused to eat his entire catch. Picture every hunter in the village devouring everything they caught each day, leaving nothing. Now picture Ray setting aside a portion of every single catch, not to eat, but to plant. In real terms, he lived on less than he earned and took the gap, the difference between his paycheck and his spending, and he used it to buy his first tiny assets. Picture him taking a slice of every paycheck and instead of spending it buying a small piece of the farm, his first shares, his first investments. It started almost embarrassingly small, but he never once ate his whole catch, and that discipline was the seed of everything. The second thing Ray did was plant that saved portion into fields that grow on their own, instead of letting it sit in a jar. Picture the difference between a hunter who buries a piece of meat in the ground to save it, where it just rots or sits there, and a farmer who plants a seed that becomes a plant that makes 100 more seeds. Ray didn't just save his money, he put it into things that compound, that grow on themselves, that multiply over the years. Picture his small investments becoming bigger investments, throwing off returns that he then planted again, the farm slowly expanding on its own. He understood that money saved but not planted is just meat buried in the dirt. Money planted into assets becomes a living, growing thing. The third thing Ray did was reinvest everything the farm produced back into the farm, for years instead of eating it. Picture the early harvests coming in, small at first. And picture Ray, instead of feasting on them, taking those first crops and planting them too, and using the first animals to breed more animals. In real terms, every dividend, every bit of profit, every gain, went right back into buying more assets rather than being spent. Picture the farm, doubling, then doubling again, growing faster and faster because nothing was being taken out yet. This is the phase that requires the most patience, and it's where most people quit. They get a little income from their first assets and immediately spend it, eating the harvest instead of growing the farm. Ray fed the farm for years before he ever fed himself from it. The fourth thing Ray did was build his own field from scratch. He started a small business on the side, something that could eventually run without him. Picture Ray after his hunting hours working on a little venture of his own, something that started as pure effort but that he slowly built to run on systems and other people instead of on his own. 2 hands. Picture the moment that business first made money on a day Ray didn't personally work it. The first time a field produced without him standing in it, that's the moment a hunter becomes a farmer. He didn't just buy other people's farms through investing, he planted one of his own. And the fifth thing Ray did tied it all together. Every time his income went up, he sent the raise to the farm, not to his lifestyle. Picture the other hunters. Every time they caught more, immediately upgrading. A bigger hut, finer clothes, more feasts, so that no matter how much they caught, they ate all of it. Now picture Ray keeping his life roughly the same even as his catches grew, and funneling every extra bit into planting more fields. Picture his lifestyle staying flat while his farm exploded in size. This is why Ray, who never earned some outrageous salary, ended up wealthier than relatives who earned far more than he did. Because they ate every raise, and he planted his. Let me show you why this matters so much more than it seems. Because there's a hidden force that makes the farm eventually dwarf anything hunting could ever produce. Picture a farm in its early years. Small, modest, producing a little. But a farm is alive, and living things multiply. The crops drop seeds that become more crops. The animals breed and become a herd. So picture the farm growing not in a straight line, but faster and faster over time, each year's growth building on all the years before it. Picture the field that was tiny at year 5 becoming vast by year 25, not because Ray worked harder, but because the farm had been multiplying on its own the whole time. This is the thing hunting can never do. A hunter's output is capped at whatever his own 2 arms can catch in a day, and it never grows on its own. It actually shrinks as he ages. But a farm compounds. Picture 2 lines drawn across 40 years. The hunter's line, flat and then slowly declining as his body weakens, and the farmer's line, starting lower but curving upward, gently at first and then steeply until it towers over the hunter's. That gap, that enormous distance between the 2 lines at the end, is the difference between my Uncle Ray and everyone who lectured him at the barbecue. Let me put this in 2 real lives, because the contrast is sharper than any explanation. Picture 2 men who started at the exact same place, same hometown, same starting salary, same ordinary paycheck. Call them Dave and Marcus. Dave followed the rule his whole life, the way almost everyone does. Picture Dave as the perfect hunter. He worked hard, showed up every day, earned a decent living, and spent almost all of it. A nice car, a bigger house every few years. Every raise absorbed into a nicer life. Picture Dave's whole existence as a series of catches, each one eaten as fast as it came in, nothing ever planted. And for most of his life, Dave looked like he was doing better than Marcus. Nicer things, flashier life. But picture Dave at 65, forced to keep hunting because the day he stops, the food stops, with almost no farm behind him to fall back on. Marcus did one thing differently. Picture Marcus earning that same ordinary paycheck, but never eating his whole catch, always setting a portion aside and planting it. Picture him living in a smaller house than Dave, driving an older car, looking for years like he was falling behind. But behind Marcus's modest life, picture a farm growing, investments compounding, a small business he built, assets multiplying season after season while he slept. For 20 years, nobody envied Marcus. And then picture the 2 of them at 60. Dave is still hunting, still trading every day for his food, exhausted and unable to stop. Marcus has a farm so large it feeds him completely without him lifting a finger. His investments in his business now produce more than his job ever did, and he hasn't had to pick up a spear in years. Same start, same income. One ate every catch and stayed a hunter forever. The other planted a portion of every catch and became a farmer who never has to hunt again. The only difference was the rule. One followed it, and one broke it. Now let me be honest about the hard part, because breaking this rule is genuinely difficult, and I don't want to pretend it's easy. The reason so few people become farmers isn't that they can't understand this. You understand it right now. It's that farming demands you do the hard thing during the years when hunting is screaming at you to just relax and eat. Picture the farmer in year 2, exhausted, hunting all day and planting all evening, watching the pure hunters around him feast and rest and enjoy their catches, while his own field still produces almost nothing. Picture how tempting it is, in that moment, to give up the farm and just eat like everyone else. That's the wall almost everyone hits. The farm's rewards come late, and the sacrifice comes early, and human beings are wired to grab the catch in front of them over the harvest they can't see yet. Uncle Ray's real gift wasn't intelligence or luck, it was the willingness to look poorer than his neighbors for a decade, so he could be free for the rest of his life. The rule is easy to understand and hard to break, and that gap is exactly why so few people are wealthy. So let me hand you the exact way to start breaking the rule yourself beginning this month, because you don't have to quit hunting tomorrow to become a farmer. First, keep your job, keep hunting, but stop eating your entire catch. Take even a small fixed slice of every paycheck and refuse to spend it. Second, plant that slice into fields that grow on their own. Put it into broad, low-cost investments that compound in the background automatically every single month so the farm gets fed whether you think about it or not. Third, when your first harvests come, any returns, any gains, resist eating them and reinvest them straight back into the farm so it multiplies instead of just feeding you once. Fourth, over time, look for a field of your own to build. A small business, a skill you can sell without trading every hour. Something you make once that can pay you more than once. And fifth, every time your income rises, send the raise to the farm before your lifestyle can eat it. Keep your life a little smaller than you can afford and plant the difference. Do those 5 things and picture your own farm starting to grow beside your hunting, small at first, then faster until one day it can feed you on its own. So let me take you back to that backyard, all those years of Uncle Ray getting lectured over paper plates about getting a real job and some security. Here's what the whole family missed while they were pitying him. Ray had more security than any of them because his food didn't depend on him showing up anywhere. They thought he'd broken the rules of a safe life, when really he'd escaped a trap they were all still standing in. Trading the one thing you can never get back, your time, for money that stops the moment you do. Every person lecturing Ray was a hunter who couldn't imagine anything but hunting, mistaking their cage for the whole world. And Ray, the black sheep, the one who wouldn't get a real job, was the only one who'd walked out of that cage and built a field in the sun. So here's what I want you to take from my Uncle Ray. The rule that everyone around you follows, trade your time for money, hunt every day until you're too old to hunt, is not a law of nature. It only feels like one because everyone you know is living inside it. You are allowed to break it. You can keep hunting for now because you have to, while you take a portion of every catch and start planting a farm of your own that will one day feed you without your hours attached. It will be slow. You will look for a while like you're falling behind the people eating their whole catch. And then, one day, if you keep planting, your farm will be bigger than your hunger. And you will get to set down the spear and step into a life that most people never even realize is possible. Everyone else follows the rule. Be the one who breaks it. Plant your first seed this week and let it grow into the thing that finally sets you free.